The best way to summarize this is after the torrential rains of the last 2 summers, we began to see water collecting on the basement floor of the Washington County Courthouse. Our primary focus had been near the elevator well, where it seemed to pool up after any small amount of rain. At that time, the county probation office was located in the basement, and we were finding that water was pooling up there as well. After the first summer, and Judge Peel had raised that as being an issue, the county began to try to come over and try to remediate the situation as best they could by, blowing out the water and mopping it and trying to contain the problem. But with the summer heat, we began to get some just terrible stench throughout the courthouse. And we would have deputy clerks complaining about that stench. The general public was complaining about the smell. And then as the fall came and the heat subsided, we got a little more relief rather, and we were able to go back about our business. Last summer, we had again the torrential, decade type of rain that came through. And simultaneous to that rain and the water collecting in the basement, we were beginning to see problems on the outside of the courthouse. And that's when an approximate 900-pound piece of the facade fell and crashed, destroying the ADA ramp that allowed folks to get in and out of the courthouse unimpeded. And that kind of was the last straw, and that's what started our closer inspection, both outside and inside. Well, the outside problems were just the cosmetic issues. We had part of the roof that was coming off, another piece of the facade that was ready and precariously perched and ready to fall, rather, and so we had to obtain the services of a contractor to take that off, and the remnants of those are beside the courthouse as we speak. But it was downstairs in the basement where we started to do some closer inspection, and we began to see all sorts of mold in the old records that were kept. We began to see mold not only in the basement but also in the jury bathroom where the jurors would use. We began to see some water leaks on the second floor where that was located, and some paint peeling. We saw in a couple of the rooms that were not used on the second and third floor of the courthouse, we were seeing wood rot, and we were seeing water spotting on the walls. At that time, we knew we had a structural problem. We weren't sure just the extent of the mold problem until we went further. We, based upon complaints of the tenants, the air and the quality of the air that people had been complaining about, we commissioned an interim air quality test. And basically that was to give us a survey as to what the building might have as far as problems internally. Again, we had moved from the outside thinking that the problem was safe from the outside. We began working inward. We discovered from that testing only limited areas of the courthouse. And again, the courthouse was built in 1927. We only tested portions of the basement. We tested portions of the second floor and the third floor. We did not test any portion of the first floor where the clerk's office space was. We got back at least a dozen different strains of mold, 5 of which were deemed to be immediate health risks. And once that report came back, the court immediately ceased its hearings to the public in the facility, and I think a day or two later, the county commission acted to close the courthouse and move us all out. I just know that the report that we had in hand, when it had 5 red biohazard icons, we knew that that was not good and it was time to leave. One of the things that we noticed in the basement, especially in the southeast corner of the basement of the courthouse, That's where the oldest records of Washington County are kept, and those are not only clerk of court records, but Board of County Commission records and minutes and things of that sort. Records dating back as far as the 1840s or so, and in some instances there may be records down there before this was a county. We began to see down there in that particular room a lot of water damage to records, the clerk records that were there. One of the things that the report that came back to us told us was that you may have noticed a light dusting on some of the books. That dust is not dust. Those are mold spores. And those spores are all over the books, and certainly if you've toured the facility or have seen pictures, it's readily available. You don't have to go looking for that. So we saw that mold was starting to just consume the books down there, as the expert had told us. If you have moisture, if you have any type of darkness or any type of setting where it's not easily dried, and then you have the paper product that is an organic material, basically the mold will feed off of that organic material. And that's what we began to see down there. You may have also noticed in the pictures, you'll see, especially in that southeast corner, the white paint has begun to chip off or to open up. I want to make clear that our test was for mold. We've never addressed the asbestos issue. And our expert told us that if lead paint was used in that courthouse facility, as soon as it began to chip or to open up, its interaction with just the everyday type of air quality that may have been coming through there could create a chemical combustion or chemical composition of arsenic. I'm not qualified to tell you about that. I just know when I heard arsenic, we had a problem again. But I think probably as far as the preservation of those records and the cleaning of those records, the clerk ad litem is probably, or clerk ad interim rather, is the person best suited to answer those questions. Our temporary solution here in Washington County is driven by the fact that the court must have a presence in this county, and we have to stay here in some form or fashion. We have an annex courtroom that is attached to the current sheriff's office that was designed primarily for civil hearings. We have converted that to the best that we can to allow for the criminal proceedings to take place there. The county commissioners have offered up, and we have now designated the county commission boardroom as an alternative courtroom site, as well as the EOC room. Those two facilities will primarily be used for civil hearings and those that do not pose an immediate safety risk, such as defendants that may be incarcerated, domestic violence types of cases, cases that might cause enhanced security. Those cases we'll still do over at the small annex to the best we can.
Which is
the annex courtroom is a third the size of the other courthouse or courtroom facility that we were using. We've got some serious security issues in that we don't have any type of holding cells for criminal defendants. We have to allow them to be brought in from an outside door through the room that is used. If there is a jury, the jurors would be using that room, or a judge and the attorneys in a pretrial conference would be using that room. The defendants have to come through that room, and so obviously it causes a problem for the judge as to where the judge needs to be. Presently, I stay outside in my car, and the bailiffs are watching me and watching until that room is cleared, and then when I can come in, they'll wave me in, and I'll walk in from outside and then place on the robe and then take the bench. But there are not a lot of exit points. Furthermore, again, there's no place to hold the defendants, and when we have a full courtroom, in this case 75, 80 people is about the max we can sustain in there. And if you get a number of defendants that are in there as well at the same time, with a number of guards that'll be brought over by the sheriff's office, it becomes unmanageable. The only way that we know how to go forward to address all of these problems is that we have created a task force that brings into play the clerk, the county, the chair of the county commission, the county attorney in particular, the judiciary, any type of the security concerns, the sheriff's office is involved, and we try to get as many people that can give us good information to be on this task force with us as we go forward. I'm being told that we have funding challenges in the county. I'm not privy to those numbers. That's clearly their discretion and their purview as to how to fund things. But certainly the preliminary indication is that they don't have any money available to help out. So we have been seeking help from our legislative teams here in Northwest Florida, briefing them on the problem to see if there is some sort of appropriation or grant that might be available to help this county out to rebuild the facility. We've talked to the judiciary to get their advice on how to proceed. It's going to have to be a comprehensive effort, not only with our elected officials in Tallahassee, but the elected officials here in Washington County, and frankly the 14th Judicial Circuit. We're all involved in this in order to try to find the appropriate funding sources. But from a judiciary standpoint, any of the monies that we were going to try to use to repair the leaks in the courthouse are absolutely minuscule in relation to the actual cost it would take now to repair that courtroom and courthouse facility. And I think that's why the Board of County Commission voted 5-0 to explore the option of building a new courthouse. The numbers just didn't seem to support spending $5 million to repair an 87-year-old building if we're going to be back in the same position 5 years from now. The legislative team, certainly the folks that have been briefed on this are all sympathetic. They have been very helpful in giving us some advice and some pointers on where we need to go from here. They are not able yet to make any firm commitments, and we understand that. But part of our speed with which we've acted, we basically moved out of that facility mid-December, and here it is mid-February rather. So in 60 days we've come a long way, but we're trying to educate the legislators to see if they can then find a solution for us while the local county commission tries to find their solution. Everybody's sympathetic, but quite frankly, a picture speaks 1,000 words when it comes to this facility. You can tell somebody about a sick courthouse, but until you've actually seen it, you can't begin to fathom the damage that's occurred in this facility. We've had a good response in the last 2 weeks of folks that have been responding to our call for this emergency. Certainly Representative Coley has come over and toured the facility. We have had the benefit of talking to Representative Matt Gaetz. We've had the opportunity to meet with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and the Office of State Court Administrator. We have met with Representative Jimmy Petronas from Bay County, just because he has some unique knowledge as to the courthouse facilities in Bay County and ways that perhaps we could use his knowledge to help as well. We've not yet been able to get a hold of and schedule an appointment, rather, with Senator Gaetz, who also represents this district. That would be critical for this legislative session to have both the Representative Coley and Senator Gaetz briefed on this matter and made aware of the emergency that we have. We have been very fortunate that the governor's office has sent over to us his regional representative, and we have also met with members of the governor's staff in Tallahassee as well.